Kenny Pickett has now been traded to the fourth franchise that he's been a part of in the span of 16, 17 months. And now there is a chance that the Las Vegas Raiders, even though I don't know if Raiders fans like the idea, but Kenny Pickett is the future quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I think the best thing that could possibly be said about Kenny Pickett is that he's going to have a guy in front of him for at least a year or maybe just a few months until maybe he's for some reason gets traded again. But if you're a Las Vegas Raiders fan, you know that Kenny Pickett probably isn't seeing the field unless Geno Smith gets injured or plays very, very poorly. But given the fact that Pete Carroll is the head coach of the Raiders and the outside of Kenny Pickett, the other option was Aiden O'Connell until he got injured, and now the other option is Cam Miller. I really don't see a world where even if Geno Smith throws 30 interceptions, unless he pulls a Jameis Winston, I really don't see him getting benched this year. Now, this trade also highlights a few interesting factors for almost every single party involved. I mentioned the fact that Kenny Pickett, he's going to be on his fourth franchise in the last 15 months. He's also going to have a chance if he ends up starting for the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know how many quarterbacks have been drafted in the first round of an NFL draft and have been traded and started games for at least three franchises. He didn't get a chance to even play for Cleveland. But a guy to start a game for three different franchises in his first 4 seasons as a quarterback, I don't know if that's ever happened. And it's an interesting thing to think about because every single one of these teams that has traded Kenny Pickett has been in the market for a quarterback that has the pedigree of a first-round talent. And I mean, Cleveland, after trading Pickett, now was left to Joe Flacco and 2 quarterbacks that they drafted just this last year. Regardless of the names of those quarterbacks drafted, they could have been first-round talents themselves. But Cleveland still is not in the market to get rid of somebody that, if you're somebody that believes in Kenny Pickett, which I don't really, but if you're someone that does believe in Kenny Pickett, I think you're a little confused as to why the Browns would be very fine with trading him away after just acquiring him less than a year ago. I mean, this was this offseason that the Raiders acquired Kenny Pickett. And it wasn't like they gave up nothing to get him. They gave up a 5th-round selection. They gave up Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And they essentially traded him away for less than what they did to get him. Now, I know Dorian Thompson-Robinson is not a quarterback that's even on an NFL roster at this moment after getting released by the Philadelphia Eagles. But he was a guy in Cleveland that people liked. He started games in Cleveland. He was somebody that the players, I think, were fine with him being the starting quarterback. And a 5th-round pick, it always has the potential to hit big. And so it just highlights a weird common theme for Kenny Pickett, for these teams he's being traded from, for the teams he's being traded to, where it's just interesting to see a first-round guy to go to this many teams and possibly start for multiple teams in his first few seasons. It's also interesting from Cleveland's perspective, literally just today, Andrew Berry, technically yesterday, Andrew Berry confirmed all 4 of the quarterbacks were going to make the 53-man roster. He literally said they like all the guys they have. Now, that could have just been a smokescreen. That could have just been some sort of bait to try to see if somebody would maybe offer more than a 5th-round pick, or maybe offer a player that could actually play for Cleveland this year or in the future. But it's just a confusing time to look at what Cleveland is doing from the aspect of what they're saying in the media about their own players, what they want out there in terms of the media surrounding their players. There's been so many stories that have come out about not just the Browns, but how the NFL teams might have not, colluded to not draft Shedeur Sanders in first, second, third, fourth, any round of this last year's draft because they wanted to send a message to Sanders. Now, I'm not a firm believer in that aspect, but given what just happened 2 months ago with the NFLPA and the collusion scandal revolving around that and guaranteed contracts that are, listen, if the owners are willing to do that regarding $200+ million contracts, I have no doubt in my mind that they would do that to Shedeur Sanders. I have no doubt in my mind that that could happen. I'm not saying that that's confirmed. I'm not saying that it happened. I'm just saying if I had to choose to either believe it or not to believe it, I probably would believe it. Without a doubt, I think a lot of people are surprised that Kenny Pickett was traded. And the fact that it was Kenny Pickett among the 4 quarterbacks there, between Flacco, himself, Shedeur Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel, I think it was an amazingly surprising move to see that it was Kenny Pickett, the odd man out from these 4. Because honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if either Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel got cut from the Cleveland Browns. I wouldn't have been surprised if Joe Flacco got traded. Kenny Pickett getting traded it's very surprising. And it's weird to make this big of a deal out of a guy who's probably going to be a backup quarterback, who's been a backup quarterback for the last year and a half. But that's just kind of the world, I think, that the Cleveland Browns live in. They do weird things. And honestly, the Las Vegas Raiders, you can kind of question why they would want Kenny Pickett. Again, I'm not somebody that's in the camp of Kenny Pickett is a great quarterback. This is a guy who's thrown as many interceptions as touchdowns in his career. But you don't really know what you have with Kenny Pickett, but you also do know what you have. I think you just kind of have to wait and see what actually happens if he has the ball in his hands, whether he's going to throw it to your team or throw it to the other team, to be honest with you. And you already have a quarterback like that in Geno Smith. And again, I don't know if the plan is to have Kenny Pickett be the guy for the future. I don't know if the plan is to maybe just see if Kenny Pickett gets to next preseason. At the end of the day, Kenny Pickett's option was declined for 2026. So after this year, Kenny Pickett can go wherever he wants. And from Las Vegas's perspective, a 5th-round pick next year, again, it's not a worthless pick to just trade a 5th-round pick. And so it makes you think maybe they want Kenny Pickett for the future. But again, I don't necessarily understand if that's the right move or not.